For the news.
Is shaping up to be the largest and most ambitious edition since its launch, as the delegations of over 140 countries continue arriving in the country. Gaza is on the brink of collapse, more than 100 dead in a single day, rising deaths from famine and attacks on civilians waiting for aid. The world is witnessing a massive mobilization to help the Sudanese village hit by a landslide that killed hundreds of people. Hello and welcome to Radio Algeria International. I'm Jamal Samani. A number of officials or official delegations are arriving in Algiers ahead of the 4th Intra-African Trade Fair, scheduled to open tomorrow, including presidents, senior government representatives and ministers from various African countries, reflecting the strong continental interest in this major economic event. Mr. Sharfi Masoud has more.
The Minister of Foreign Trade and Export Promotion, Mr. Kamal Rizig, received the President of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, Mr. Brahim Ghali, at the Honor Lounge of Algiers International Airport upon his arrival to take part in the IITF 2025. Mr. Rizig also welcomed the Vice President of the Republic of Namibia, Mrs. Lucia Witbooi, who is also visiting Algeria to participate in the fair. Earlier, the Trade Minister, Mr. Rizig, welcomed high-level delegations from the Republic of Congo, Uganda and Namibia, including Congolese Minister of State in charge of Trade, Claude Alphonsine Silo, Uganda's Minister of State for Cooperatives, Frederick Ngubi Goum, emphasizing the Intra-African Trade Fair as a strategic platform for strengthening African partnerships, exchanging economic expertise, and enhancing continental cooperation. Mr. Rizig welcomed as well the former President of Niger, Mahamadou Issoufou, a prominent advocate for the African Continental Free Trade Area.
On the eve of the 4th Intra-African Trade Fair in Algiers, preparations are in full swing, with officials and participants expressing satisfaction over the arrangements and the host country's efforts to ensure the success of the continental event. Speaking to our reporter Mohamed Khatel, the technical task manager for the African Development Bank's participation in the IATF, Mr. Inye Briggs from the Trade and Industrialization and Trade Development Department of the African Development Bank, expressed satisfaction with the bank's pavilion, noting that the design met expectations. He also highlighted the strong preparations across the expo grounds, describing the activities as intense and in full swing ahead of the opening, and reaffirmed his impression that arrangements are progressing well.
First of all, we are impressed with what we have seen with the bank's pavilion. We saw the design concepts, we settled for this one, and we are happy that what we saw in the design is what we are seeing live. But in terms of what we are seeing around the expo grounds, we're seeing that our arrangements are in top gear for tomorrow's opening, and I like what I've seen, that the arrangements are really going on. There is what one might call feverish activities all over the place, rushing to get the time in readiness for the opening tomorrow. But I'm impressed with what I've seen so far, particularly so, like I said, for the pavilion, which is our own main concern.
He recalled visiting during Algiers' bid to host the event and was impressed by the facilities. He welcomed the renovations, noting the government had kept its promise, and said the event would be a source of pride for both Algeria and Africa through the IATF brand.
I've been here before. We were part of the team that came for the due diligence inspections during the bid to host the event. We were here when the Algiers International Trade Fair Complex was taking place. We saw the venue and we were impressed with what Algeria has on offer. I'm happy to see that a lot of renovations have also taken place, and that the government's promise to ensure that this place is in top shape has really been kept. So we are happy that the government is put out everything to ensure that the event is held in a way that at the end of the day, not just the country but Africa itself will be proud that we have a brand, the IATA, that has started going places.
The fourth Intra-African Trade Fair, which opens tomorrow Thursday here in Algiers, promises to be the largest and most ambitious edition since its launch, thanks to the scale of its participation, the economic prospects it opens up, and the exceptional resources mobilized for this success, in line with the vision of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, which is in line with Algeria's historic commitment to continental integration.
Under the theme A Gateway to New Opportunities, this fourth edition will be marked by the participation of more than 2,000 exhibitors and delegations from 140 countries and is expected to welcome more than 35,000 professional visitors. This edition should also conclude with the signing of major trade and investment agreements worth more than $44 billion. In this context, Algeria has mobilized all necessary resources to offer participants, including official delegations, exhibitors, and trade visitors, the best possible conditions, putting in place support and facilitations measures designed to make this fourth edition in Algiers the largest and most ambitious ever organized since the launch of the AITF in 2018. Organized by Algeria, the African Export-Import Bank, Afrexim Bank, initiator of this fair, the African Union Commission, and the Secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area, this fourth edition attracted particular attention from the country's highest authorities, who ensured that all parties concerned were involved in order to ensure the smooth running of this major event. Last April, during a meeting of the Council of Ministers, the President of the Republic ordered the implementation of all necessary measures to facilitate the participation of African partners in this economic event and all measures and provisions likely to contribute to its success for the benefit of the nation and African economies. Algeria's ambition is to make this fourth edition a success. It will be held at the exhibition hall Sefex and the Abdellatif Rahal International Conference Center, given the importance of this biennial event, which is one of the largest platforms for trade and investment partnerships of the continent.
The Independent National Regulatory Authority for Audiovisual Media has issued a statement calling on all companies operating in the audiovisual communication services to provide exceptional media coverage of the fourth edition of the IATF 2025. On the occasion of Algiers hosting the largest intra-African trade event, the authority calls for continuous broadcasting via special news programs and live broadcasts from the pavilions and forums halls with in-depth and detailed coverage of the latest findings and figures, in addition to making content available in both national languages and foreign languages, urging companies operating in the audiovisual communication services to facilitate access to information for people with hearing or visual impairments in recognition of the public's right to information. To ensure coverage worthy of the event, the National Radio has put together a rich program mobilizing significant material and human resources. Programs, reports, and debates in Arabic, English, Spanish, and French are on the menu, as well as interviews with political and economic analysts and experts to discuss, among other topics, South-South cooperation, intra-African trade, and the various activities planned for the fair. The coordinator of the fair on Algerian radio, Khalid Fahsi, who is also the acting director of Radio Algeria International, emphasized that the national radio station has put together a special program mobilizing more than 150 journalists and technicians, as well as significant logistical resources.
Algerian Radio has put together a rich program for coordination and work during the fourth edition of the Intra-African Trade Fair. The radio station has mobilized a large number of journalists and technicians, more than 150 in total, who will be spread between the Exhibition Center and the International Conference Center during the fair, which will run from September 4th to 10th. The aim is to ensure comprehensive coverage of the various activities. Algerian radio coverage began before the fair and will continue during it, and there will also be follow-up on the results of this event, which is the largest exhibition in Africa and across the 5 continents. The main objective is to place Algeria at the heart of Africa.
To facilitate the work of journalists, the radio station also plans to provide significant logistical resources.
من حيث المعدات وضعت الجزائر الدولية.
In terms of equipment, the radio station has set up several studios for the 6 stations, Channel 1, 2 and 3, Radio Algeria International, Afriqia FM and Radio Net, as well as Jil FM, which will cover various youth activities taking place at Suffix. The radio station has its own streaming studio where the broadcast will be carried out on the airwaves and also on the Algerian radio's digital platform.
Algeria will thus be at the heart of Africa, and Algerian radio will be at the center of this fair with special coverage to give maximum visibility to the African event. Now, the Minister of State in charge of Energy, Mines and Renewable Energy, Mr. Mohamed Al-Qab, received a delegation from the Investment and Development Bank of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, as the ministry's headquarters on Tuesday. The delegation was led by the bank's Vice President, Mr. Olagunju Ashimoloyo. More details with Mr. Sharfi.
The meeting provided an opportunity to examine ways of cooperation between Algeria and the bank, particularly in the strategic priority areas such as energy and mining, in addition to strengthening regional integration in Africa through support and contribution to the financing of major projects, including the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline project, solar energy projects, and electricity interconnection projects among African countries, the exploitation and processing of mineral resources, and the development of agricultural fertilizer industry. Mr. Al-Qab emphasized the importance of strengthening inter-African cooperation in the field of sustainable energy and increasing electricity production and interconnection capacities, thereby helping to ensure energy security and promote balanced development across the continent. He also reaffirmed Algeria's commitment to continuing to support regional integration projects, foremost among which is the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline project, considered a strategic multidimensional project with major socio-economic benefits that will consolidate the continent's position on the international stage. Mr. Al-Qab highlighted Algeria's willingness to share its long experience with its African partners, particularly in the field of exploitation, industrialization and training, emphasizing the central role of Sonatrach and Sonalgaz, as well as national actors in supporting African countries to develop their energy systems, not to mention Algeria's contribution to training African skills through its specialized institutes. For its part, the delegation of the Investment and Development Bank hailed Algeria's vision for development as well as its active regional role and central position in strengthening continental integration. In this regard, Mr. Ashimolo reaffirmed the bank's interest in supporting and participating in the financing of major strategic projects such as the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline and regional electricity interconnection projects, given their importance for energy security and support for socio-economic development in Africa.
The Minister of State in charge of Foreign Affairs, National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, today received the Director General of the World Intellectual Property Organization, Mr. Darren Tang, on an official visit to Algeria at the ministry's headquarters. The meeting provided an opportunity to examine ways of strengthening bilateral cooperation in the World Intellectual Property Organization in the context of the official inauguration of a regional office of this UN agency in Algeria, in particular through support for national efforts to develop industry, promote startups and innovation, develop human resources, and preserve cultural heritage. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. Now to the Middle East. Palestinian medical sources in the Gaza Strip announced the deaths of 6 Palestinians, including a child, in the past 24 hours due to starvation and malnutrition in the Gaza Strip. This brings the total number of the starvation-related fatalities to 367, including 131 children. The ongoing humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip continues to worsen due to the blockade and shortages of food and medical supplies. The severe famine is intertwined with the genocidal war waged by the Israeli occupation. At least 40 Palestinian civilians were killed in Zionist airstrikes targeting different areas across the Gaza Strip. Since the start of the aggression, the occupying forces have launched an offensive on the Gaza Strip, resulting in the killing of 63,557 Palestinians, the majority of whom were children and women. Hundreds of victims remain under the rubble, or in the streets, where ambulance and rescue teams face difficulties in reaching them due to the ongoing shelling and massive destruction. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Ministry of Foreign Affairs condemned the statement made by extremist far-right Zionist Minister Smotrich, particularly his provocative calls to deepen colonialism and annex the occupied West Bank. More with Masoud Sharfi.
The ministry said these calls constitute a continuous and direct threat to the realization of a Palestinian state on the ground based on the two-state solution, adding that they also constitute a public incitement against the Palestinian National Authority and the right of the Palestinian people in their homeland. In a statement issued today, the ministry considered these statements an extension of a series of provocative calls made by more than one Zionist official and fall within the framework of committing further crimes of colonialism, annexation, genocide and displacement of our people. The ministry affirmed that all illegal unilateral measures and plans by the occupation to alter the historical, political and legal status in the occupied West Bank, including Jerusalem, will not establish a legitimate occupation in the occupied Palestinian territory. The statement concluded by saying that while following up with countries and components of international community on the repercussions and dangers of these incursions, it calls for the imposition of further sanctions and measures to compel the occupation government to cease its violent oppression of Palestinian people and its crimes and to compel it to implement the international will for peace.
Now to Africa. The African Union has called for a ceasefire in Sudan in order to assist the victims of the landslide in North Darfur, said the AU Commission in a statement after offering his condolences to the families and expressing his compassion to the Sudanese people. The chairman of the AU Commission, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, reaffirmed the AU's unwavering solidarity with the affected populations, calling on all Sudanese stakeholders to silence their weapons and unite to allow the rapid and effective delivery of humanitarian aid. Humanitarian aid is being delivered to the victims as more than 1,000 people, men, women and children, have died in a landslide that has devastated the Darfur region, completely razing the village of Tarasin, with only one person reported to have survived. The conflict in Sudan, which escalated in April 2023 due to the war, happened, causing thousands of deaths, tens of thousands injuries, and forcing nearly 15 million people to flee. The Sudanese government has announced that the Adre border crossing on the border with Chad will remain open for an additional 4 months to facilitate the delivery of humanitarian aid to people affected by the ongoing conflict. The Sudanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs stated that the government will extend the Adre border post with Chad from September the 1st to December 31st. to allow aid convoys to pass and urged countries and humanitarian organizations to use this extension to intensify assistance and meet urgent needs in the region. The Adre border post, a key crossing in western Sudan, provides an alternative route for delivering humanitarian aid, with UN agencies confirming it will help reach people in need. This is Radio Algeria International, the English service. Stay tuned.
The fourth edition of the Intra-African Trade Fair IITF 2025, the most important and most strategic African event hosted this year by Algeria, is kicking off in 2 days' time here in Algeria at the International Exhibition Hall. Our radio interviewed Tivanshi Niaro, the General